Welcome back, everybody. We are ready to start making this a more interesting game. What we're going to do is we're going to add another object. This time we're going to make a crosshair, and this crosshair object is going to basically follow the mouse wherever it goes. And so in order to do that, we're going to have to get our sprite for the crosshair. And we're going to add an interesting event, one of my favorites, and that is step. And if you notice when I click add event, events are of course things that happen during the course of the game. And there's a lot of these set up that's perfect. You know, hey, we got the mouse and someone's clicking the left button or the right button, or we're doing a key is being pressed or is being held down or whatever. So a lot of these great ones in here, but every now and then there's something you want to do and there isn't something built in. So step is a great way to sort of insert whatever code you want. I do step a lot with variables, and there's going to be some later tutorials where I do a lot with step. For now, we're just going to go ahead and click step and move on here. Now, what's going to happen is this step is going to fire off. This event's going to fire off for that object as long as it's existing in the game. It's going to fire off 30 times a second because it's set up to 30 times a second. Okay, so we'll go back to our object. So 30 times every second, this thing is going to go off. Okay, so what are we going to do? Well, that's where we actually start now creating our action. What we want to do is we want to move the crosshair to a particular location. So we're going to do a thing called jump to location. So, and this is what it used to be called. So I'm going to just type jump. And I start writing it here, and you'll see, oh, it's under movement. There's jump to a point. Jump to start. Well, we don't want to jump to the start. We want to jump to a point. So we're going to drag that out. And then we have, okay, so what are we dragging it to? What, you know, are we going to go to itself? That bit doesn't make sense. Something else. What are we going to have it jump to? That is the question. Okay, so what we're going to do is, if you'll notice here, X and Y, that is the X and Y of the origin. So where is the origin going to move to of the sprite over here? Which, remember, the origin is at the center of the sprite. So what we're going to do is we're going to create, we're not going to create, we're going to tap into an existing variable. It's called mouse. Hey, look at that. Mouse X, bam. And then mouse Y. So what we're going to say, if every step, it's just going to be wherever the mouse is. Let's go ahead and try it out. Before we can try it out, I believe we have to drop the instance on the screen. Pretty sure we do. So I grab that and I just move it out. It doesn't matter where you put it because the moment it starts moving, that thing is going to jump to wherever my mouse is. So let's go ahead and test it out and see how it works. And there it is. Sort of lags behind it, but that's all right. So what we want to do now is we want to make it so we can basically fire a button. And so we, in this case, we need to have a mouse event. And so it's the same object. It's the object crosshair. Remember how we had that hole? So basically, every time we click on the screen, we're going to create a hole. And that's going to indicate that we hit some, or, you know, indicate where we clicked. So you'll be able to see it for half a second. Now, at this point, it's more like a quarter of a second. So we might have to go fix that in just a moment. But let's add our other event. So we're going to do a mouse event. And what we need to do is, you might think it'd be left down, but what we need to do is what's called a global event. We're going to do global left down. What that means is we don't have to actually be clicking on the actual crosshair. This will just be more based on where the actual mouse is when you click. So I do the global left down. There it is. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create a hole. So we're going to create an object hole in the same location. So what we need to do is do a thing called create instance. Now earlier we did a destroy instance. Well, let's create. I like to be creative. So we're going to take this create instance, drag it over, and now we are, what are we going to do? Object. We're going to do an object hole. We're going to make it the same relative location of X and Y. And so we're saying 0, 0, 0 pixels relative to the actual location of the click, the X and the Y, of the global mouse down. Okay, so that's layer instances. That's right. Sorry, I do this sometimes. Let's go back to my object, crosshair. And so I've got that. Create instance, X, Y. Let's just go ahead and test it out. Look at that. Now, one of the things I want to kind of point out is that I did a global left down. I didn't do a global left press. There is, I believe, under mouse. Yeah, left press would be, I can actually just hold that thing down, and as long as I'm holding it down, it would be creating instances at one instance every game loop. We don't want to do that. Okay, so now we've got the action of actually firing. Just for argument's sake, and knowing that some of you tend to, I say some of you, even me, we sometimes miss something. I just want to show you, what if we never checked relative? Okay, let's see what happens. Let's go ahead and just run it. Can you see the bullet hole? We actually are creating the bullet hole. It's actually getting created right up there. So what's going on? Well, we didn't make it relative. So relative would be relative to the X and Y of where we clicked with that left down button. So we check that relative box and we go there. Technically speaking, what you could say is whenever you check relative, you're saying get the X number, whatever it is, and add this to it. So if I want the bullet to appear to the right of my mouse click, let's do like 50, for example, and that's relative to X. I'm gonna go ahead and run it. I'm gonna move I'm not gonna move it around, but I'm gonna click to show you kind of what happens. Notice it's appearing 50 pixels to the right of where I'm clicking. So that's relative to its position. And 0 just means 0, 0. It just means we're not adding anything to it. You could actually put negative 50. And it would be 50 pixels to the left, excuse me. And there it is, see, appearing on the left-hand side. Okay, so just uncheck the relative, set it back to 0, and we should be good. I forgot there's one more thing we want to do. Now notice when I run this, you can still see the pointer of the cursor. And so that looks kind of lame. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that pointer off. In the old game maker, as part of the global game settings under Windows, let's see if that's true. Okay, I did a lot of digging around and I couldn't find a really simple sort of setting to do this in. Could be your room settings. Now that I think about it, let me just double check there. But let me just show you right here, window set cursor, and if you set it to CR none, then it should have the same effect as basically setting it to no cursor at all. So let's go ahead and try it that way. Since we already have an object, crosshair, what we're going to do is we're going to add another one, which is basically I think it goes under other, and it's game start. Game start. We are going to now execute code. So what we're going to do is go here. There's the execute code. It's under comment. Drag it out. And now I'm just going to paste right there. CR underscore none, I believe is what it was. See if I can go back to, yeah. Set cursor, CR underscore none. That should work. Let's see. Yep, no cursor. Hey, but look, it's there when I go off the window. And I love the fact that it just, the object never goes off the screen. Kind of gets hidden under the water. Oh, water. Instance should be above water. It should be. That is weird. Well, either way. Nope, can't see it. You can't see it either way. Okay, I think I'm about out of time. So what we're going to do is just do a quick recap of what we just did. This is all part of the crosshair. We added a step event that during the step event, we're going to jump to the mouse's X and Y exactly where it is. And then on the left down global, which means just where the cursor is per se. When we click it, and it doesn't have to be on another object. Right, when we click anywhere on the screen, what it's going to do is at the same location, the X and Y, notice they're both checked as relative. We're going to create an instance. We're going to create an object hull. And as you saw in the previous tutorial, the object hull disappears after half a second. And then, so that was to create the holes. And then the final thing we did here is we decided to execute code on game start. And we did our first GML language of this tutorial, where we set window underscore set cursor to none. We do it at the very beginning of the game so that it's just always gone and we don't have it anymore. So anyways, there we go. In the next tutorial, we're going to get our ducks lined up in a row and get them moving around the screen. So stay tuned for that.